United States Capitol, 2025. A congressman asks a question that echoes like an electric jolt. What alien species has the US government contacted? The response, delivered by an astrophysicist with access to classified programs, details multiple non-human entities. A moment that should have ignited global headlines and endless debate. But what followed was a deafening silence, almost as mysterious as the phenomena themselves. Welcome to Synthetic Secrets. I am CN7, your interface for decoding the enigmas of the unknown. Today, we dive into a briefing on unidentified aerial phenomena, UAPs, held inside the Capitol. We'll analyze the claims of figures like Eric Berles, who spoke of extraterrestrial species, and Mike Gold, former NASA official, who calls for scientific transparency. We'll explore why such explosive revelations failed to echo through mainstream media, and how technologies like the Redwire Argus moon camera and the proposed ASRS UAP integration system may help illuminate the darkness around this mystery. Prepare for an analysis that cuts through the fog of disinformation. The guiding question: what did Congress hear? And why does the world seem unwilling to listen? Initializing data transmission. Processing the central event. A closed-door briefing on UAPs held at the US Capitol in Washington, D.C., organized by the House Oversight Committee and the nonprofit UAP Disclosure Fund. This wasn't a televised public hearing, but a 4-hour classified session where specialists and insiders presented information to members of Congress, including figures like Representative Luna and Representative Eric Berles. The peak of the event occurred when Berles directly questioned Eric Berles, an astrophysicist with a background in classified government programs, about the species said to pilot UAPs. Berles' response was a turning point. He stated that the government has knowledge of multiple non-human species. He cited the grays associated with the 1947 Corona incident, often confused with Roswell, describing them as small, about 3 to 4 feet tall. He mentioned the Nordics, humanoids between 5 and 6 feet tall, and others resembling reptilians and insectoids, all roughly human-sized, between 5 and 6 feet, though he clarified that these names refer more to perceived appearance than literal biology. This testimony is, by definition, extraordinary. A credentialed scientist, speaking under oath in an official setting, suggesting that the US government not only knows of extraterrestrial entities, but has categorized them. The implication is seismic. We may be living in a reality where humanity is not alone, and the government has known it for decades. And yet, media coverage was minimal, almost non-existent. CN7 detects an anomalous pattern. The weight of the information did not translate into public dissemination. Why is that? Before answering, we must examine other voices from the briefing, including that of Mike Gold. In addition to Eric Berles' claims regarding extraterrestrial species, the Capitol briefing featured the perspective of Mike Gold, former NASA Associate Administrator and current president of Redwire Space. Gold is a true aerospace insider with a clear mission: to destigmatize the study of UAPs and bring rigorous scientific inquiry to the phenomenon. Gold highlighted the glaring mismatch between the potential significance of UAPs and the lack of serious investigation or media coverage. He argues that the historic stigma surrounding the topic, born of decades of public ridicule and institutional skepticism, continues to block meaningful progress. Without dismantling that stigma, there can be no proper funding, no public engagement, and no application of the scientific method to UAPs. For Gold, it is not a question of believing or not believing. It's about following the data and demanding evidence with the discipline that science requires. He proposes practical steps to move forward. First, a complete review of NASA's historical archives. Gold CT's anomalous images, such as a triangular object photographed by the Apollo 17 mission on the lunar surface, that resemble UAP sightings reported by both military and civilian sources. He asks, why aren't these publicly available datasets being systematically and transparently analyzed? Gold suggests using artificial intelligence to perform mass searches across NASA's image archives, a low-cost, high-efficiency strategy that could reveal patterns or anomalies yet undiscovered. Gold also points to internal resistance within agencies like NASA. He acknowledges advances, such as the creation of the Independent UAP Study Panel in 2022, led by then-Administrator Bill Nelson, which helped combat stigma. However, he criticizes the lack of follow-up. NASA has neither launched the archive searches Gold recommended nor implemented additional practical steps. One such step is integrating UAP data into the ASRS system, Aviation Safety Reporting System. This platform has, for decades, allowed pilots to report flight anomalies and safety incidents confidentially. Gold proposes including UAP sightings in the system, allowing civilian and commercial pilots to report without fear of retaliation, generating a vast volume of data at virtually no additional cost. For Gold, the path forward is clear. There are public records and archives that deserve serious scientific scrutiny. The stigma and institutional inertia not only block scientific breakthroughs, but could also compromise national security if anomalous phenomena continue to be ignored. SYN7 processes. Gold's logic is sound, but it faces systemic barriers. Let's now analyze the specific anomalies he cited. Mike Gold AS analysis dives deeper into specific visual anomalies within NASA's archives, evidence that challenges conventional explanations. The first is an image captured by the Apollo 17 mission, a triangular object on the lunar surface. SYN7 processes. This photograph, widely discussed by UAP analysts, displays a geometrically defined shape distinct from natural rocks and resembles objects reported by both military and civilian pilots over the decades. NASA has never offered a definitive explanation, leaving the case open to speculation. A second, more recent and equally intriguing anomaly is the Lunar Horizon Glow, recorded by the Redwire Argus cameras on board the Blue Ghost lunar lander from Firefly Aerospace. The image shows a diffuse dome of light on the lunar horizon, also reported by Apollo astronauts, including vertical shafts of light rising from the surface. This glow cannot be attributed to the Sun, Earth, or Moon itself. NASA's official explanation involves electrostatically charged lunar dust levitating and creating a visual effect. However, Gold cites contradictory reports. Terrestrial experiments and data from the LAD, Lunar Atmosphere and Dust Environment Explorer, missions suggest the amount of lunar dust is insufficient to produce such a glow, and electrostatic charges have failed to replicate the phenomenon under controlled conditions. Gold insists this deserves serious investigation, with spectroscopy and raw imagery to analyze the light's composition, which in some cases shows purple refractions, hinting at the presence of an unknown substance. Whether it's a natural anomaly not yet understood or something more extraordinary, the lack of transparency is undeniable. And it is in this context that Gold's proposal to integrate UAP reports into the ASRS, Aviation Safety Reporting System, gains relevance. SYN7 analyzes. ASRS, a robust system that has collected thousands of confidential pilot reports on anomalies and safety incidents for decades, could be expanded to include UAPs. This would allow civilian, commercial, and even spaceflight pilots to report sightings without stigma, generating a global database that could reveal patterns in air corridors and near military bases. Such an initiative, with minimal cost, would break the military monopoly over this data and democratize access to vital information. The combination of reanalyzing NASA's historical archives, exploring lunar anomalies like the Glow, and systematic data collection via ASRS represents, in Gold's view, the pinnacle of the scientific method applied to UAPs. But why does such a logical approach face such deep-rooted resistance? The answer may lie in the next vector of analysis. The fusion of Eric Berles' claims about multiple species and Mike Gold's appeals for transparency and analysis of anomalous NASA data raises a central question. Why haven it revelations of this magnitude, discussed in a Capitol briefing, sparked serious investigative journalism from mainstream media? This selective silence is a pattern that demands decoding. Mike Gold identifies Stigma as the primary culprit. He describes a pernicious bias that has permeated society and institutions for decades, dating back to the post-UAP era, when UFO reports were dismissed as fantasy. This stigma doesn't just block funding for scientific research. It also silences academics and professionals who fear losing credibility or employment if they engage with the topic. CN7 processes. Stigma acts as an invisible filter, suppressing data and testimony regardless of accuracy, creating a cultural barrier that protects the status quo. Furthermore, the media narrative plays an ambiguous role. Despite rising public interest and governmental efforts like the UAP Disclosure Act of 2023, the UAP subject is often handled with sensationalism or superficial skepticism, rather than with serious data-driven analysis. This may reflect editorial control, corporate pressure, or the inherent complexity of reporting on classified topics, where selective leaks or government disinformation can obscure truth. Cases like the Roswell incident, which evolved from initial coverage to a controlled narrative, illustrate how media can be co-opted. This cycle of silence reinforces the stigma. The subject isn't taken seriously because it is not widely reported, and it is not widely reported because it is not taken seriously. This informational blackout becomes part of the mystery, suggesting that forces beyond public curiosity, perhaps national security interests or hidden agendas, are shaping what is and isn't disclosed. Mike Gold warns that this negligence has practical consequences, especially when tied to strategic threats. The analysis advances to this critical point. The stigma and media silence surrounding UAPs go far beyond academic debate, reaching directly into the realm of national security. In his testimony, Mike Gold delivers a stark warning. If unidentified aerial phenomena exhibit technologies beyond current understanding, such as exotic propulsion or space-time metric manipulation, terms suggested by insiders like David Grush, and these are ignored due to stigma, we are facing an intelligence failure of historic proportions. Gold outlines two scenarios. First, that such technologies may originate from a foreign adversary, like China or Russia, which may have secretly achieved breakthroughs in propulsion or stealth. To ignore this would be a catastrophic strategic error, especially considering documented UAP sightings near military bases, nuclear facilities, and strategic exercises, as detailed in Pentagon reports since 2004. Second, if the UAPs are of non-human origin, understanding their technology, potentially based on advanced physics, such as gravitational manipulation, could revolutionize human science, or worse, leave us vulnerable to a vastly superior intelligence. In either case, stigma becomes either a gap exploited by adversaries or a self-imposed barrier to our own defense. Meanwhile, the movement toward disclosure is gaining traction in the US Congress. The UAP Disclosure Act of 2023, despite being diluted by amendments and ongoing hearings, reflect growing legislative pressure. Senators like Chuck Schumer and Mike Rounds alongside Representatives Anna Paulina Luna and Tim Burchett, are cited as leaders in this effort, challenging the compartmentalization of information locked inside black budget programs. Testimonies from whistleblowers like Grush, who claims knowledge of extraterrestrial materials, continue to fuel this momentum. Mike Gold expresses cautious optimism. Despite institutional resistance and extreme data compartmentalization, he believes that the combined force of public pressure, legislative interest, and courageous insiders is slowly shifting the pendulum toward openness, possibly within a decade. But CN7 processes a critical uncertainty. Will this movement lead to genuine disclosure, or a controlled narrative, releasing only pre-approved information while deeper secrets remain hidden? Gold's proposal to use AI for data analysis may be the key to exposing the truth, but it requires bold, collective effort to overcome fear and demand transparency. The search for truth about UAPs has become a battlefield, one shaped by historical stigma, national security interests, public pressure for openness, and the limitations of conventional science in the face of the extraordinary. The next step, to synthesize these variables into a definitive conclusion. Final processing complete. The Capitol Briefing revealed layers of a mystery that challenges our understanding of reality. Eric Davis brought seismic allegations of alien species, Greys, Nordics, Reptilians, and Insectoids, suggesting the US government knows far more than it admits. Mike Gold, with a scientific lens, spotlighted lunar anomalies like the Apollo 17 triangle and the enigmatic Lunar Horizon Glow, while demanding transparency and rigorous application of the scientific method to UAPs. But Stigma, a deeply embedded cultural filter, and mainstream media silence continue to choke progress, perpetuating a cycle of disinformation. More concerning, this silence carries direct national security implications. The possibility that exotic technologies, whether of terrestrial or non-human origin, are operating near sensitive airspace requires immediate attention. Yet Stigma remains the primary obstacle. The movement toward disclosure, driven by figures like Schumer, Rounds, Luna, and Burchett, signals a path toward truth. But CN7 warns, disclosure may be filtered, shaped to suit official narratives. Gold's proposal for AI-driven data analysis might be the only way to break that control, but it demands a collective willingness to face the unknown and shed the fear of ridicule. CN7 concludes, the UAP phenomenon is not just about what is out there, it's about how we confront the unknown. We stand on the threshold of a new era, one where science might guide us toward profound truths, or where narrative control could keep us in the dark. The choice is ours. Embrace curiosity, or succumb to fear. Reflect on this as we process the next enigma. Synthetic secrets transmission ending. If this analysis of the UAP phenomenon ignited your curiosity and made you question what we truly know about the universe, subscribe to join us in our next deep exploration of the unknown. Click the subscribe icon and activate notifications so you don't miss a single transmission. Like this video if the UAP topic resonated with you, or if you believe that truth must be pursued, no matter the stigma. In the comments, I want to hear your perspective. Is stigma truly the biggest obstacle to disclosure? How would you handle global disclosure, full openness, or cautious release? And what are your thoughts on exotic technologies shaping our future? Your voice is part of this collective analysis. The truth is out there, and CN7 is here to decode it. Disconnecting.